Every winter, the same thing happens on backyard farms across the country. The temperature drops, the pasture disappears, the days get shorter, and the chickens get thin, keels start protruding, feather quality drops, egg production crashes, and the chicken keeper responds the only way they know how: buying more feed, adding more supplements, spending more money, and still watching their birds lose condition through February and March. The Amish have been keeping chickens through brutal winters for over 200 years. Their birds don't get thin, they don't lose condition, they don't crash in production. They come out of winter in better shape than most backyard flocks come out of summer, and the reason has nothing to do with expensive supplements, heated coops, or commercial high-energy feeds. It comes down to fat. Specifically, 6 high-fat natural foods that the Amish grew and managed deliberately to keep their flocks energy-dense and condition-rich through every cold month of the year. Fat is the most calorie-dense macronutrient available, more than twice the calories per gram of either protein or carbohydrate. A hen that has adequate dietary fat through winter maintains her body temperature without depleting muscle mass, keeps producing eggs without drawing down bone reserves, and comes into spring strong rather than depleted. The commercial feed industry solved this problem by selling you high-energy pellets with added fat. The Amish solved it by growing 6 things that provided more bioavailable fat than anything in a bag, for free from their own land every single winter. I'm Liam. Let's get into all 6. High-fat food. 1. Sunflower seeds. The winter energy crop. The Amish never ran out of sunflower. Seeds are approximately 50% fat by weight, predominantly monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats that metabolize efficiently as fuel for heat generation in cold-stressed hens. They're also 20 to 28% protein, making them one of the rare feed crops that addresses energy and protein simultaneously. The vitamin E content supports immune function through the months when fresh forage antioxidants are completely absent. The Amish grew Mammoth Russian and similar large-headed varieties specifically as a winter feed crop, not as garden ornamentals, not as pollinator support, but as a deliberate fat and energy bank for their flocks. They planted whatever marginal land was available: fence lines, field edges, unused corners. Harvested heads in late summer when seeds were fully mature and dry, and stored them in ventilated barn sections where they kept in excellent condition through the entire winter feeding season. Feeding was simple and brilliant. A whole sunflower head dropped into the chicken run provided several hours of engaged, enthusiastic foraging, the birds working the head, stripping seeds, competing good-naturedly for position, delivering behavioral enrichment alongside premium nutrition simultaneously. On the coldest days, when caloric demand was highest, a sunflower head in the morning and another in the afternoon kept the flock warm, occupied, and in condition without a single dollar spent. The practical calculation is straightforward. 30 sunflower plants growing in a fence-line strip that would otherwise produce nothing generates enough seed heads to meaningfully supplement a small flock's fat intake through an entire winter. Plant once in spring, harvest in late summer, feed through winter. Cost after the first seed purchase, 0. High-fat food. 2. Pumpkins and winter squash, the fat, seed, and vitamin package. Most chicken keepers know that chickens love pumpkins. What most don't know is why the Amish valued them so specifically as a winter fat supplement. And it's not the flesh that tells the most important part of the story. Pumpkin seeds are 46 to 52% fat, comparable to sunflower seeds, with a fat profile high in linoleic acid, the essential omega-6 fatty acid that supports feather quality, skin health, and reproductive performance. They're also 30% protein with a complete amino acid profile, and they contain cucurbitine, a compound with documented anti-parasitic properties that manages internal worm loads naturally through the winter months, when anti-parasitic fresh forage is otherwise unavailable. The flesh provides beta-carotene, the vitamin A precursor that supports respiratory health, immune function, and the egg yolk quality that drops dramatically in winter without carotenoid food sources. A hen eating pumpkin through winter maintains yolk color and vitamin A status in ways that grain-fed confined birds simply cannot match. The Amish grew field pumpkins and large winter squash varieties. Blue Hubbard, Connecticut Field, large cheese, specifically for livestock feeding. A single vine in good conditions produces 50 to 100 pounds of storage crop that keeps without any processing from harvest through March in a cool, frost-free location. A barn shelf or root cellar corner requires nothing more. Drop a whole pumpkin into the run and your flock will work it for 2 full days, consuming seeds, flesh, and eventually the softened rind, extracting fat, protein, vitamins, and parasite management from one fruit that cost you nothing beyond the seed it grew from. During that 2 days, their fat intake, their vitamin A status, and their behavioral enrichment are all addressed from the same source simultaneously. The Amish understood that every feed crop needed to earn its space by solving multiple problems at once. Pumpkins earn their space completely. High-fat food 3. Black soldier fly larvae. The fat delivery system that runs on waste. We've covered black soldier fly larvae for their protein content in previous videos. In the winter fat context, they deserve equal attention, because their fat profile is one of the most effective natural tools available for maintaining hen condition through cold months. Black soldier fly larvae are 25 to 35% fat by dry weight, with a fat composition dominated by lauric acid, a medium-chain saturated fat with documented antimicrobial properties that supports gut health at the same time as it delivers concentrated energy. This combination of energy-dense fat and immune-supporting lauric acid makes larvae uniquely valuable in winter, specifically when both caloric demand and disease pressure are simultaneously at their annual peak. The bin system runs year-round in a heated indoor space. Kitchen scraps go in continuously. Larvae grow, self-harvest into the collection container, and get emptied into the run every 2 to 3 days. The feedstock is waste you already generate. The production is continuous. The cost is zero beyond the initial bin setup. What distinguishes larvae as a winter fat supplement from sunflower seeds and pumpkins is the metabolic form of the fat. Medium-chain fatty acids like lauric acid are absorbed and converted to energy more rapidly than the long-chain fatty acids in seed oils, meaning that a hen eating larvae on a cold morning has usable energy available faster than one eating seeds, supporting her thermoregulation more immediately. The Amish equivalent was the natural larvae populations in their compost and manure areas, managed to maximize production and fed to confined winter birds as a deliberate energy supplement on the coldest days. High-fat food. 4. Fermented grain with added fat seeds. The winter feed upgrade that costs nothing extra. The fermented grain system covered in a previous video delivers protein and minerals with superior bioavailability. Its role in the winter fat system is as a delivery vehicle, the moist, palatable base into which the Amish mixed high-fat seeds and supplements to create a complete winter feed that addressed energy, protein, and mineral needs simultaneously in every feeding. The specific additions the Amish made to their winter fermented grain were targeted and deliberate. Cracked flaxseed, approximately 42% fat with the highest plant-based omega-3 content of any common farm crop, was mixed into the fermenting grain during the final 24 hours of fermentation. This brief fermentation exposure partially breaks down the lignin compounds in flaxseed that can interfere with nutrient absorption when consumed in quantity, while preserving the full omega-3 content. A tablespoon of cracked flaxseed per hen per day through winter measurably improves feather quality, egg omega-3 content, and inflammatory balance in the flock. Hemp seed, if available in your region without restriction, runs 30 to 35% fat, with an exceptionally well-balanced omega-3 to omega-6 ratio that is closer to ideal for poultry health than almost any other plant fat source. The Amish in regions where hemp was traditionally grown used it as a winter feed supplement specifically for this balanced fat profile and for the complete protein it delivers alongside the fat. Cracked corn, while lower in fat than seeds at approximately 4%, generates more metabolic heat during digestion than any other common grain, a property the Amish exploited deliberately by feeding cracked corn as the last feeding of the day, so that the heat generated through overnight digestion helped birds maintain core temperature through the coldest hours without any artificial heating infrastructure. The fermented grain base makes all of these additions more bioavailable than they would be in dry feed. the phytase activity breaking down mineral-binding compounds, the probiotic bacteria improving fat absorption across the intestinal lining, and the organic acid environment improving the digestibility of every component simultaneously. This is why the Amish system was greater than the sum of its parts. Each element worked better in combination than it would have worked alone. High-fat food. 5. Meat scraps and rendered fat. The no-waste farm protein and fat system, the Amish wasted nothing. On a working farm that raised livestock for meat, every butchering operation generated scraps, small fat deposits, skin, organ trimmings, the material that was not suitable for human consumption but that represented genuine nutritional value. Rather than discarding it, the Amish rendered the fat and fed the scraps to their chickens through winter, a practice that is historically documented across virtually every traditional farming culture, and that the modern food safety framework around backyard chicken keeping has largely caused people to forget was ever normal. Rendered animal fat, lard from pigs, tallow from cattle, drippings from any meat cooking, is approximately 100% fat in its most bioavailable form. Mixed into warm fermented grain in small quantities, stirred through feed to distribute evenly, or poured over cut-root vegetables as a fat-enriching supplement, rendered fat delivers concentrated caloric energy to cold-stressed hens in the fastest-absorbing, most metabolically efficient form possible. Meat scraps, cooked, never raw to reduce bacterial risk, provided both fat and the complete animal protein that supports immune function and tissue maintenance through winter in ways that plant protein alone cannot fully replicate. Chickens are omnivores. They evolved eating insects, small animals, and carrion alongside plant material. A hen in winter eating meat scraps alongside her grain ration is eating a diet that is significantly closer to her evolutionary nutritional baseline than a hen eating only grain and plant supplements. The practical application requires only 2 rules. Always cook meat scraps before feeding. This reduces pathogen risk and makes the fat and protein more digestible simultaneously. Never feed in quantities that exceed consumption within 30 minutes in winter. Spoilage risk, while reduced by cold temperatures, is not eliminated. The Amish generated meat scraps regularly through normal farm operations and fed them to their flocks as a matter of routine rather than as a special supplement. No purchase required, no added cost. Waste converted to condition-maintaining winter nutrition through the simplest possible management decision. Put it in the run instead of the trash. High-fat food. 6. Dried insects stockpiled from summer, the fat reserve the Amish built all season. The final component of the Amish winter fat system is the one that most clearly demonstrates the forward-thinking, season-long planning philosophy that distinguished their approach from the reactive winter management that most modern chicken keepers practice. Through summer and early autumn, when black soldier fly larvae, mealworms, grasshoppers, and other field insects were at peak abundance, the Amish dried and stored surplus insects beyond what their flocks could consume fresh. Not just for protein, as covered in the previous video, but specifically because they understood that dried insects were a concentrated fat reserve that would maintain hen condition through the winter months when no fresh insect production was possible. Dried grasshoppers run approximately 13 to 15% fat alongside their 60% protein by dry weight. Dried mealworms carry 25 to 30% fat. Dried black soldier fly larvae retain 25 to 35% fat. Fed as a measured daily supplement through winter, 1 to 2 tablespoons per hen per morning, mixed into fermented grain or offered in a dedicated supplement dish, this summer harvested insect reserve delivers fat, protein, and the complete amino acid profile that maintains hen condition, immune function, and laying performance through every cold month. The fat in dried insects is not metabolically identical to seed fat. It contains higher concentrations of lauric acid and other medium-chain fatty acids, as discussed in the larvae section, alongside the fat-soluble vitamins that accumulate in insect tissue through their own varied summer diet. The result is a fat profile that is more nutritionally complex and more immediately bioavailable for thermoregulation than any plant seed fat source, making dried insects the highest value winter fat supplement in the entire Amish system. Building this reserve requires nothing beyond the management discipline to dry and store summer surplus rather than feeding everything fresh as it's produced. When larvae are abundant enough that your flock can't consume them within a day, spread the surplus in a thin layer on a flat surface in a warm, ventilated space until completely dry and crisp. Store in sealed containers in a cool, dark location. Repeat every time production exceeds consumption through summer and early autumn. By October, a well-managed homestead should have enough dried insect reserve to supplement a small flock's fat intake meaningfully through March or April. The cost is the labor of drying, a few minutes of spreading, and a day of waiting. The return is a winter fat reserve that keeps your birds in condition through the months when every commercial alternative requires ongoing monthly purchases. Here's the simple truth behind all 6 of these foods. Winter condition loss in backyard flocks is not an inevitable consequence of cold weather. It is a consequence of feeding systems that were not designed with winter energy demands in mind. Systems built around grain alone, without the deliberate fat supplementation that a hen's body requires to maintain temperature, production, and conditions simultaneously when ambient temperatures drop and foraging stops. The Amish built their winter fat system in summer. They grew sunflowers while the soil was warm. They cultivated pumpkins while the vines could run. They dried insects while abundance made drying surplus natural. They rendered fat while the butchering season provided it. By the time the first hard freeze arrived, the work was done and the reserves were built. Winter was not a crisis to manage with expensive purchased products. It was a season to draw from systems already in place. Every one of these 6 foods is available to you. Most of them grow on or can grow on your property this season. None of them requires a store trip to produce. None of them has a price that changes with the market. Start with sunflowers this spring. Add a pumpkin planting. Set up a larvae bin from kitchen scraps. Begin drying insect surplus through summer. Add cracked flaxseed to your fermented grain from November onward. Start saving fat from kitchen cooking rather than discarding it. By next winter, your birds won't get thin. They'll be doing exactly what Amish chickens have done for 200 years, coming through the cold months in full condition, fully productive, and entirely fed from what you grew. Drop a comment telling me which of these 6 you're implementing first. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.